Good morning. I'm Shannon Gill Burnett, and I'm here to talk to you about health and your well-being. I recently created a YouTube channel where I give information out to the public regarding cellular disease, aerobic exercise, clinical nutrition, information about diabetes, hypertension, high cholesterol, all of those things. And while my own son says, watching you talk, Mom, is like watching paint dry, and I get it, I am working on that site to bring forth the most information and relative tips and guidelines to guide you into good health. That is my goal there. I want to start off this particular episode with a big thank you to the Mills family, who I worked with very closely for many years in the 2000s. They were not just clients of mine, they were family. Your belief in me back then and your belief in me today is everything. So thank you so much. I'm a 4-time published author. My 3rd novel will be out in August, and the 4th one right behind that. So being a fictional writer, I completely understand how important it is to have a disclaimer and to not present myself as a cellular expert or a physician or a researcher. I'm just somebody who wants to put forth my opinions, my theories, information as I know it, and then you can do with it what you want. Just a little bit of background. I owned a wellness center for 10 years during the 2000s. I worked with hundreds of people writing exercise prescriptions that contained aerobic exercise. Every one of them got it. And those clients ranged from perfectly healthy people, men, women, and children, to people who had diseases such as hypertension, lupus, Lyme disease, diabetes, to cancer. And what I found was that aerobic exercise worked every time. When I stepped away from my business and dissolved it in 2010, I wasn't finished. I wanted to leave something for humanity, for mankind. So I wrote a Pelican Brief about what I believe is the pathway to the cure for cancer. It was my research, it was my theories, my hypotheses, and I wrote it. And when I put the last period on the last sentence of the last page, I felt invincible and completely sure that I was right. All of this information contained in that Pelican Brief was directly related to my experience over those 10 years and the hundreds of people I worked with. Physicians, oncologists, professionals, researchers, people I loved. Right after I finished that Pelican Brief, I had 3 deaths in a row to cancer of people that I loved. It was like a domino effect. And those 3 deaths of the people that I loved that were clients and friends triggered the early, untimely death of my own father. And I will tell you, I went down like a ton of bricks, never to be heard from again, if you know what I mean, jelly bean. But through some heavy, painful self-introspection, I was able to climb out of that well of hell and continue on. I am a phoenix. I rise from the ashes. So with that Pelican Brief, I started writing a book, and I wanted to write the stories of the 3 people that I lost. My dad's story, along with my own introspection and the information there contained in that Pelican Brief, and I did just that. I took that to my lawyer, and he said, Shannon, you can't publish this. You can't present this as fact. And I said, well, David, what do I do? I want to get it out. He said, what you're going to have to do is go back and write it as fiction. I said, counselor, consider that done. I went back, and after another 3 months of writing in the medium, fittingly titled, was published with that Pelican Brief in there, written under a fictional pretense. Fast forward now to 2025, I am going to be a 4-time published author, and I just recently finished a business plan for a 501c foundation And in those pages of the business plan were the same things I talked about in my Pelican Brief, written over a decade ago, 15 years ago. And I want to share those with you today. When I finished the Pelican Brief 15 years ago, the thing that made the bells go off in my head, the light bulb go off in my brain, was HIV. And that was the human immune deficiency virus. I had the pleasure and capability to work with a few HIV patients and volunteer at Whitman Walker right before I got out of my business. It was during the time working with HIV patients that I completely understood the connection between cellular disease, cancer, and HIV. How did I figure this out? Because I had to understand what HIV was and what reverse transcription meant. So, we all know that AIDS is a virus, so it comes from the outside of the body. You acquire it. And while we don't know what causes AIDS, we really don't as humans. Thankfully, we have a drug that will suppress and retard the HIV virus from mutating throughout your system and thus causing AIDS. That medication is reverse transcription. What does that mean? It means that they take the RNA and send it back into the genome, which is your full DNA structure. And it's like a do-over. It retards the growth. So it sends the RNA back into the DNA genome, and it keeps doing that. It keeps reverting it back. It's reversal. It keeps putting it back, putting it back, putting it back, so that pattern cannot move forward, okay? That's why you can't cure HIV. You can just retard the growth. So I started thinking, if a reverse transcription medication can retard cellular growth and put the RNA back at the DNA level, what other diseases could possibly be linked to that information? And I immediately thought about cancer. If RNA is going back into the DNA genome and having a do-over, perhaps that could stop, the transcription from carrying forward at the cellular level through mitosis, right? So we're all exposed to oxygens and free radicals and poor nutrition and pollution, secondhand smoke, smoking, drinking, toxins. So all of us have those cancerous cells within our body. They're already there. But aerobic exercise causes reverse transcription. It takes the RNA and puts it back in the genome. So think about that. All of us have these cancerous cells, and what we're trying to do to cure cancer is stop that cell growth. The process from DNA to RNA through mitosis, the daughter cells that split and proliferate and carry forth into your body as your blueprint. What if it was possible to send those cells back to the genome for a do-over? Aerobic exercise causes reverse transcription. It has the same effect as the HIV medicine that those patients are taking. Proof. And I'm not sure what it is about aerobic exercise that causes that chemical reaction in the cells, but I believe it's oxygen, large muscle masses being used, your heart, your lungs, your big muscles. I believe it's detoxification through the lymph system, through CO2 outside of the body, but it happens. So let's talk about mitochondria. Let's talk about that within your cell. The mitochondria is the energy of the cell. Aerobic exercise directly affects it. If it is the energy of the cell, its job is to signal the body, to signal cell growth, to signal transcription, to signal cell death, to revert back. It's the energy life source of the cell within the DNA, and aerobic exercise affects it. I've talked before about telomeres and how aerobic exercise directly affects the telomere. It lengthens, strengthens, protects the end cap of your DNA chromosome. And then we talked about cellular senescence, where A cell will only divide and proliferate 50 times before it dies. But sometimes it doesn't die, it's still metabolic and it stays within your body, thus just waiting to carry forth with toxins or toxicity or disease or transgression. And aerobic exercise removes senescent cells. I hope this has been helpful, and I'm available anytime here or on my YouTube channel to discuss further my theories, my hypotheses, and as always, your health. Have a good day.